This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Now, let's talk to Clay Henry on the Morning Rush.
Clay's a lot we can get into with football, and we'll talk some basketball coming up next segment, but you can't say enough good things about KJ Jefferson. Back-to-back bowl game MVPs. He was himself last night.
Yeah, and there's just not a way you can go through without mentioning about 10 or 12 other guys that you didn't even, you're scrambling, okay, who's that guy? Who's that guy? I think I knew who Harper Cole was. Yeah, I think I'd seen him play on special teams, but really hadn't done much. And, you got Marion Harris that really was remarkable in the way he played. I put the glasses on him and watched him, and he's making plays, knocking guys down. He's downfield. I mean, the guy is really an athlete. There's just a lot of different aspects of that game. Cam Ball, was kind of throwing guys around in the defensive line, and your two linebackers, you'd seen Paul a little bit, hadn't seen Crook. Jalen Lewis, I did not remember who he was. I had to look it up and go into the media guide and kind of study him a little bit. It's just, it was just a strange, bizarre game that at the end you say it's a victory and you just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much of a building block it is, guys. I mean, we talked about this yesterday with Chuck. We've mentioned it again this morning with Tom Murphy, and I'll ask you, Clay, the same thing. I mean, this is a one-off roster that, you didn't play with it all year prior to this with this collection of players. You're not going to do it again. So, I mean, yes, you get to a winning record, but I'm not sure you look at this and say, hey, these are the guys we're building for the future with.
Yeah, Tommy, that's not it, though. What it is that you had 2 weeks to pull your team together mentally. And whether those guys are going to play a lot going forward, you set the tone. Apparently the practices were very physical. Their idea of the game was, they knew they'd give up some yards, but they were going to play more physical. They played a 4-man front, sometimes a 5-man front, sometimes a 6-man front, because Kansas played 2 tight ends. They weren't going to let them run the ball. Kansas got 69 yards rushing. They kept trying to run it, which was a little bit of a mystery with the way Arkansas was playing. But I thought the tone of the game was that we're going to be tough, and we're going to be physical, and we're going to play with a different level of our pads than, and that's what they did, in those 2 weeks of practices. And it doesn't really matter who you did it with. This is the way we're going to play football, and it was different. And now, if they don't get the fumble on the end around, which we can all go through that, what the replay guys saw and what they didn't see. They didn't confirm it as a fumble. They just let it stand. It's a 15-point victory, and we probably feel better than we do right now. But it was a fun game to watch. Arkansas fans showed up. I knew, driving yesterday that East Arkansas was headed that direction, and they all came in and then they left. They didn't fill up the hotels, which is, I didn't either. I came home last night, got home real late. But you can say, well, it's not a building block. But, Tommy, there's a big difference between 7-6 and 6-7. You got a winning season and a losing season. And that's, you've got your coaching staff to kind of rebuild. They've got to just make some decisions. Michael Shearer's calling the game, had never called a game, never. And Sam said, be aggressive, stop the run. And that's what Michael did.
I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from. Where I would say we can kind of meet in the middle is if you had lost that game, it would have been horrible because you would have played your worst 2 games in the entire season.
Particularly how you would have lost.
Yeah. I mean, you think about how you played against Missouri and Columbia, a place you can't seem to win for whatever reason. And then again, if you would have blown that, it would have been the worst differential loss in Razorback history.
Just ask Brett Bielema if losses like that matter down the road. mean, it's for Sam Pittman to pull out a victory.
We almost watched the Belk Bowl.
Well,
last
that's a check mark against you that never goes away when you lose games in that fashion. So to get that victory keeps that check mark off your record because, Clay, we've seen it before, and those kind of come from behind victories by your opponents, and the way Bielema had several collapses. Missouri, Virginia Tech are two that quickly come to mind. Those things are ones that fans don't get over very quick, and that memory lingers for a long time. So Sam avoided that narrowly last night.
He did, yep. And but I'm not going to meet you in the middle. What I said is what I believe, and that's where I'm going to stay. Sorry, Ty.
Well, I was more directing that at Tommy on that, but good. I understand.
Yeah, you can direct him, but I'm not meeting you in the middle.
That is okay, man. All right, let's hear from Dalton Wagner on the quarterback, KJ Jefferson, and what he meant to the team yesterday.
KJ played a heck of a game tonight, and I told him after the game he played his butt off. And the last 2 years, 3 years, really been so much fun playing with him. He's got a confidence and swagger to him, and I think he showed it out there today.
You could tell from the jump, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't believe Sam this week when they said they really wanted to be there last week and leading up to this game. I just didn't. I mean, but they proved not only me wrong, but a lot of the fans that were wondering, hey, is this Kansas-Arkansas dynamic, the fact that Kansas wanted to be there more? Guys, you almost pelted this team last night from the jump.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought watching that game, and I know we all know what happened in the fourth quarter, but I never felt like Arkansas was playing like a team or presented itself like a team that didn't care about being there. That narrative I think that's just a fan take. That's just hey, Kansas wants it more. What, Clay, I never watched particularly the first three quarters said, boy, Kansas they're hungrier. They're just fighting harder. I mean, Arkansas was pretty dominating in the first quarter. They looked to me like a team that cared about winning that game.
Yeah, and the fans cared about it. When I say that, the ones that came, and there were 15,000 Arkansas fans there, and that's
the ones at home cared too, Clay.
Yeah, what I'm getting at is I heard a lot of people say they didn't care about the game, and they were people that weren't going to the game. But the ones that were there, they were loud, they had fun. They ignored some of the distractions of the game, which is the problems that they were having in Memphis with broken water pipes and everything, which is that's an aging infrastructure. I get that, but I never we do radio midweek with Matt Jones, and we talked to him about bowl games, and he said bowl games are always great, and he says players wanted to be there. He talked about the Independence Bowl, the victory over Missouri, and I think Sean Andrews didn't go, and there was a narrative that year about, well, if Sean Andrews doesn't care about it, I don't care about it. But the people in South Arkansas, they rolled out and filled that stadium. And they did care, and so did the players, and they played terrific. And all you can ask for players is to play your butt off, and they did. They played really hard last night. And I remarked to the people I was sitting with that it was intense on the field, and from the very start to the very end. And they got some problems in the secondary, and they're playing with guys that a couple of walk-ons, they're safeties, and they got targeted. And Kansas is good on offense. Now, they can't stop you. And, Arkansas beat them up. They just blasted their best defensive end, who, is their top playmaker. And they, Dalton Wagner and Luke Jones, wherever they put him, that's where they went. And he's a really good player, but they had a plan for him. So, but yeah, sometimes I look at the message boards and, this guy says, I don't care about the game, blah, blah, blah. Well, where do you live? Well, they didn't live anywhere close to Memphis. But again, what I saw is people all across East Arkansas and Little Rock, they went to that game. Northwest Arkansas, probably not as much.
Yeah, I think that's you're onto something there, Clay. You got to remember also, so Sam Pittman's going to hit the portal for all, and I don't know the number of guys he's got to bring in. He's already got 4 that are committed. I guess Greer just signed. I don't know about. I think Criswell and the other guys signed as well.
Morgan.
You've got to set up yourself as a player that's currently on this roster for next year. We're going to see some coaching changes. We're going to see some guys brought in. you have to give these guys tape to show to start out in spring ball that you're worthy of being first on the depth chart early in time. And again, it's these little things that lead up to next season. One game's not going to single-handedly decide if you're a starter next year or not, but it's just these little steps that help you in that process to play significant minutes next year. That's what a lot of the young players looked at last.
Yeah, you're probably waiting a little bit long. How you determine whether you're going to be a factor on this team is how you're going to handle last week in January, in February, and 2 weeks in March. Those 6 weeks, 7 weeks with a new strength coach who is going to put you through HE double hockey sticks. I mean, me, Tommy, and Ty, none of us have been through anything close to that in our lives. Nothing simulates. I mean, going in there and running the board or whatever you did at, when you were in school, an internship with Bo. Yeah, it's not like we can't speak of what that's going to be like. They will know what they've got as far as competitors and team players after that winter conditioning. And that's where you make your team. And, the 64 team, they all say that they knew when they left the fourth quarter class that winter of the spring of 64, ahead of spring, what kind of team they were going to have. That they know they were going to win the national championship, but they knew there wasn't going to be anybody that had done anything like that. So you got a new strength coach. That's where it's going to start. It ain't going to be spring practice. They'll know in spring practice who their players are because they will have already stepped up, over the winter.
Is that the seedlings of overall team toughness? Is what happens in those 6 weeks?
No question it is. Yeah, it's and if you're one of those guys, how you've done in that. Some step up. The only time I've ever heard someone say I'm surprised by how they played. Samuel Djibutu did not like off-season conditioning. He coasted, and because he just knew he was going to make plays. And Reggie Herring did not think he was a player. Houston Nutt kept telling him, he said, just wait till you get to the scrimmages. They got through the first scrimmage, and Reggie walked around. He said, well, I made a mistake on that guy. He's our best player. Yeah. But that doesn't happen too often. Usually the best players are going to show up in that off-season class, both athletically and mentally, the toughness. But so I think that, that's the first thing that Sam wanted to change. That they want to get stronger. And there's going to be some new guys, and then there's going to be some new guys that come in the summer, like Dominic Jordan didn't have spring. And but I'm interested to see even some of the guys we didn't see a lot of last night, like Isaiah Satania. What is he going to be like? Because I think he's a player. Mm-hmm. And, made too many plays in high school. Thousands of yards, led the country in receiving yards in a good conference. So, but the off season will start. They've got 2 weeks off, and then they'll be back, and it'll be all behind closed doors. None of us will see it, but I would imagine this will be pretty vicious.
I would imagine, some people's toughness are definitely going to get tested with a new strength coach. Hey, since 1968, our friends at Teeter Motors has been the car dealer where you can meet the owner and he'll introduce you to someone who's been with them for probably 20-plus years to walk through the lot with you, look at their expansive inventory, and then introduce you to their experienced sales and service department as well to keep your vehicle running in top condition, because they can do it not just on the front end of the business, if you will, but the back end too as well with their service department. In fact, Teeter Motors carries on a tradition that was started back in 1968. Now Denny Teeter is carrying on that tradition with a detail to service that his dad began years ago, making a sweet deal for you. They got 3 locations now, Malvern, Mena, and in Sheridan, and they can sell you a great car at a competitive price. If you've been other places, they don't have the selection or they got high prices that you can't afford, you need to head to Teeter Motors. Again, Malvern, Mena, or Sheridan, and online at TeeterMotors.com. Remember, the deals are always sweeter at Teeter.
Let's talk to Brent, who's in Stuttgart. Brent, good morning, man.
Good morning, Ty. You made it back from Memphis?
Man, Clay did. I did not go. We got some things we're shoring up here at the station, so I stayed back at home base.
Oh, okay. Is Clay there?
He's here, man.
I am, Brent, and I did make it back from M-Town.
Clay, I don't know from firsthand experience, but, somebody that lived in my house and raised me did. He said, you know who this is, right?
Oh, yeah.
He said, fourth quarter was hell. Or fifth quarter, whatever they called it back then.
Wilson's time. Yeah, Coach Matthews.
Yeah, Wilson's time was hell. I'm just going to tell you. But I was impressed with who was number 8 that played tight end.
Tyus Washington, and he's going to be a player. He needs to be a little more physical, and he'll get that this spring. But they like him, and he's got a lot of the attributes of a tight end: the right body, the right quick twitch. Still learning to block at the SEC level.
And
but he ran that play well. Yep.
Number 13, was it number 13?
13 is Jaden Wilson.
Caught the 2-point conversion. He didn't play much this year, did he?
Played some. Yeah, they didn't target him much, I think would be the way to put it. He played on special teams, and but his role was bigger in this game and was targeted a few more times. And
had number 8 played any this year? The tight end we spoke about just.
I don't know that I've seen him out there. Yeah, I don't know. This was a free game for guys that had the red shirt, so he kept his red shirt.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you this. Who's going to be a player is number 76, Amarian Harris.
Oh,
yeah. I watched him specifically, Brent, and he was downfield. He'd chip a man and then release downfield and seal up the outside for KJ on some of those quarterback counters. And he's a big man, and he's got quick feet.
Joe T. Robinson.
That's correct.
Is he going to be inside or
he'll be inside? He's a guard. No question. He's a guard. Yeah.
What happened to Tykeus Crawford? He played about 4 plays.
Yeah,
I think it was a bad ankle injury. Yeah,
that's not good.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, who do you think will be the tackle next year?
We may not have seen him yet. Yeah, I think there's some guys in the portal. Andrew Chambly's got a chance to be the right tackle. I think they really like him from Maumelle.
You got to see him up close and personal, didn't you, Tony?
Mountain of a man. Yeah.
Yep.
You had some
good
athlete,
and Nico,
long arms.
Both played on that same team down there. One on
I think
both
Nico
sides of the
played
line.
some last night. You've got some pretty decent in-state offensive linemen. Marion Harris, I just like that face mask he wore last night. But like you were saying, Clay, you watch Trench play all the time, but I found myself kind of like you watching this kid just maul some guys last night.
Yeah, because it's a big part of the game. He comes in and his protection was good. He didn't make any mistakes. He wasn't offside. If you didn't watch him specifically, you wouldn't know he was in the game because he didn't make any mistakes. Now, they'll probably grade a few mistakes, but he was. He's a guy that stepped up in the game, no question.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.